Good morning. I'm Joe Prout from Dale Pro Audio. We're joined by our friend Josh Kahn from Game Creek Video, my oldest and quite frankly best and most loyal customer for a long time here at Dale. Josh, maybe you want to start out by telling us your title and your role, exactly what you do at Game Creek.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Kahn, purchasing manager here at Game Creek Video. I've been here coming up on 3 years, and I replaced the infamous Richard Fabonio. Not sure if he ever did one of these with you guys, but I'm sure he would have been honored to. So I'll definitely share it with him in the end. But yeah, we've got a great relationship back and forth. You guys support us immensely, especially me. I don't have a background in this industry, so you guys have helped me really grow into this role. And without you, I wouldn't be successful here. So appreciate you guys.
Well, we thank you for that and appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about Game Creek's company history. I know obviously sort of how they began, but we'd love to hear from you what you know about how Game Creek started and sort of where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Founded and run by Pat Sullivan. And then, Garrett Sullivan, Terrence, and Kyle are heavily involved in the day-to-day. Obviously, Jason Taubman, Keith Martin on the technology side are keeping us at the forefront of everything in the industry there. They're a lot of the brains behind it. And then, you got Brian Rule running the engineering department, and then I'm up here doing the purchasing. And then we've got now over 300 people out there nationwide running the show. We have about 80 of us here in Hudson, New Hampshire. And then, the mass majority of it is out running the trucks throughout the country on the biggest shows on the planet.
Tell us a little bit about right now, how many trucks overall company-wide, and a little bit maybe about the scope of the shows you do, which are no longer just sports.
Yeah, so we literally dabble into everything, whether it's a political convention or a 4th of July fireworks, something for Netflix. TGL has been a big, addition. But now we've rolled out obviously Monday Night Football trucks, new trucks for Fox and their football team packages. Working on Amazon for their NBA packages. We're actually doing 2 builds in tandem, which is not something we've ever done before. So we are, pedal to the metal, all gas, no brakes, and we'll do whatever's out there on live television.
And how many trucks overall does the company have now?
Oh yeah, sorry. So hard to know I don't have the exact figure, but we're creeping up over 100 very, very quickly here.
Okay. Challenge is when you go to do both a new truck build and then also have to do maintenance of an existing one. First, let's talk about the new truck build because technology moves so quickly. From the point it's first being talked about to the point you have to go buy gear, sometimes something changes that causes you to have to scramble.
Yeah, great question. That's where we rely on you and Jennifer so much is I send you something that's essentially a copy paste from the last truck build, and you guys do all the heavy lifting of, yeah, this is no longer available, but here's the closest next best thing. And then obviously that has to get vetted by Keith and Jason and their teams to make sure that it is, comparable down the line. But it's a domino effect is you change one thing and inevitably then you're changing 10 other things that you didn't realize. So it's a moving target. That's always challenging. The other thing that we're fighting against all the time is just deadlines. I mean, these trucks have to roll on a certain date to hit those shows. Those show dates aren't changing. So we have to kind of manage all of those deliverables and things changing on a constant basis and make sure these trucks roll out the door, seamlessly, which we always seem to pull off, which is amazing.
Yes, you do.
And couldn't do it without you guys.
Thank you.
And then on the other side of it is you can't ignore the fleet of other trucks that are out there. They're moving they're always on the move. They're always banging on these roads around here. And for everyone here in New England, we're very familiar with potholes, and got to imagine everything is always rattling around and being handled and used and abused in the way it was designed for, but inevitably that leads to upgrades and repairs and replacements. So that stuff cannot be ignored by any stretch, and it has to be held at the same value as a brand new truck. So there's definitely that balancing act of managing both at the same time, which again, you guys help with that. You have your own inventory that is, I'm always surprised by I send you an obscure PO and you say, yeah, we got these on the shelf, shipment out today. It's unbelievable.
The average consumer, I don't think, when they sit in their easy chair or on their couch and watches a show, and they vaguely know that there's this big tractor trailer outside the arena or a stadium or something someplace, but I don't think they realize the difficulty of having it be a moving television production and post-production studio at 70 or 80 miles an hour on the roads, and what that may do to the gear, and how you have to constantly put that show back together again each week or each day if it's something like NBA every couple of days at any given location. So we know that's a challenge, and obviously
Yeah. I mean, the other challenge too that I think is another layer of it is that our mobile units are crewed by sometimes one, sometimes three or a little bit more of our own Game Creek Video employees, team members, but the rest of it is all the client's hired crew, whether they work for the client directly or they're contractually there. But they you could have different faces game to game, and our challenge here is to make it so that you walk on any Game Creek truck and it's a seamless transition. So that's something that Keith and Jason work hard at and do a great job at, and then our engineers and all those teams on site have a strong focus on too.
Yep. With reduced budgets from your clients, and we do business with them too, and reduced budgets and time frames, about you get squeezed for what they'll pay for a truck and for a job and for your people. So you could have a totally different crew coming in to use a truck in question, and uniformity and continuity is big when those new people come in to know that, okay, I worked on this truck before. It had X console, X lighting, X video, X intercom. I know what I'm getting into. And even though I only have a day to set up, I can work in this environment.
Right.
Talk about maybe in terms of the biggest change you've seen since you started, tariffs aside, in the 3 years or so that you've been there, the biggest change in the industry for you as a buyer, and how Game Creek, sort of has had to adjust to that.
Yeah, I mean, so tariffs aside, is obviously would be a huge chunk of conversation that no one wants to dive into. But trying to find continuity in an ever-changing world, like to your point earlier, the technology doesn't stop changing. Even if you just think about, if you walk into Best Buy today to buy a television, and then you walk into Best Buy a month from now to buy that same TV, it's going to be different. It may have a very similar model number, but they've changed the last digit because they've revised it, and the frame may be half an inch thinner than it was before. Now, for us, we have very custom Bolin monitors, but we also do have some other ones that are, Samsung, Sony, whatever. And we run into that problem all the time where, hey, could you put in a pickup order for this? Well, I can, but it's not going to match on the monitor wall. And, form and function are there. It'll function properly, but the fit may be slightly different. And that is an ever-changing balance that we have to navigate. And that's just a small scale. But, I would say one of the benefits of working with you is you guys get it. How many times have you caught me on buying a headset without the cable, or, things that most people would just take the PO and they'd run with it. But you guys go, wait, in order to make sure this works, you need this. Or, hey, I know you're asking for this, but you've always bought this previously. Are you sure you want something different? And, that level of customer service is, invaluable.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, like, experience is a great teacher, and obviously people like Paul Boner and Jason and Keith and all your EICs in the field, and Brian Rule back when we were dealing with him and he was in the shop, and everything you guys taught us a great deal. So it's a part of what the partnership brings is, us being your advocate and looking out for the last minute things that can happen with gear, which always happen.
Well, and I guess to your point too, is where you had said one of the challenges, and I would say for me personally, it's been that, Rich, my predecessor, had the background. I don't have the background. So when I came on board, people were kind of accustomed to, they'd submit a ticket for a pen, but they wouldn't say, I want a black Pilot G2. Uh, he would know that. I had no shot of ever knowing that. So we've created a system internally, which is basically like a storefront. So, Game Creek has a part number for pens. It always is going to default to this pen. So everyone fleet wide is going to get the same pen unless they specify otherwise. Obviously, I'm simplifying that with pens, but it's the same thing for headsets,
Sure.
for cables. We may call it a 5-foot XLR, but obviously having that made has its own manufacturer part number. Or if we make it internally, it's going to have another kind of track it has to go down. So we've built that system in place so that it's more plug and play. If I got hit by a bus, someone could take it and run with it, hopefully. So that was the goal there, is, trying to, as we grow and as we get bigger, trying to pull all this tribal knowledge out of people's heads and put it into a place where it's, makes onboarding way more simplified.
Tell us a little bit about what you like the best about the culture at Game Creek, because the atmosphere there, and I've been there enough times to know, and been out on remotes to talk to the people that work in the remotes and in the trucks to get an idea what the feeling is about the people that work there. But we'd love to hear that from you, what it is about the culture that keeps you there.
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's a true team effort. We've got people out on the road. They may feel isolated when they're out there, but if they send out an email to the group for help, there's no shortage of people willing to jump in and try to help at any hour, any day, any place, so it's always amazing to see how quickly people will jump in and try to, come to the rescue. So definitely true team effort there. Obviously the Sullivans put a lot of trust into all of us to do their job.
Me too.
So
put the trust into me too, sometimes with the fear of God behind it, but
so yeah, it's always appreciated, especially with the with what's at stake. There's obviously so much on the line that you can kind of get caught up in the moment and forget, but then you sit down on the couch and you turn on the TV to watch the Super Bowl and you realize, holy crap, we kind of helped put that all together. Now at the same time, I'm sitting on the couch, with a beer enjoying the Super Bowl, but we've got a team of people out there that are grinding away, making sure that I can have that ability to do that. And, just trying to remind myself of that and keep it into perspective and appreciate the efforts that are, 24/7, 365 around here.
Tell us a little bit, without me trying to get you to reveal something that's still confidential, about what's on your roadmap coming up maybe in the next year for the future.
Yeah, like I've said, it's all gas, no brakes. We've obviously built, what is it, almost a dozen mobile units in the year 2025.
Wow.
So it's been insane this year. Next year, there's, like you said, there's many things that are always cooking. What lands, no one really knows, but I know internally we're hoping to really focus on just taking a moment to look at the fleet and make sure that we're upgrading the fleet and maintaining the fleet, kind of sprucing up things to keep up with that ever-changing, ever-growing industry.
Tell us a little bit about when a new truck build is being planned for a client and the Sullivans are involved in negotiating for the fee for that truck, how the process works when they come to you for your side of it. Like, give us a bill of materials and a budget for the gear that's going to be in there.
Yeah, that's something that's ever evolving, and we're trying to always kind of nail it down to be more precise. Especially with, I know we said we weren't going to bring it up, but here I go. Tariffs. You look at, Japan, for example, and I'm not sure if they're at 15% or 20% because it's changed a few times. But even if we were just to say hypothetically it was at 10%, I mean, that's a significant dollar value when you're talking, sure, cameras, lenses, and everything that goes with it. So trying to factor all that in these discussions has been a major, speed bump. But really, it's just the consistency is what those guys use. Is a truck build is, I don't want to say it's copy paste, but the the body of it, the skeleton of it, all of that is fairly well done. I mean, Jason and Keith have it pretty nailed down so that, you know, the client has their ads and their special touches that they want to do, but the meat of it is pretty much nailed down. So when they're having these discussions, they can, within reason, know where to start. You know, and then if they want to come to me for specifics, they can, but for the most part, they've got it pretty well nailed down.
Okay. Lastly, and we really appreciate this time, we don't want to take up too much more of your morning, but the partnership with Dale, and you know, where does a vendor bring you the best added value? What kinds of things from a vendor really helps you do your job better and helps your team?
When it comes to the new build stuff, it's fairly copy paste on 80% of it. Having the ability to have our vendors know that and stage stuff so that we can act quickly when we do get pen to paper is invaluable. You know, helps both of us. You know, you guys can ship it immediately, and we, you know, we are tight. I know it's probably been a while since you've been here, but we are tight on space here. We are maxed out. In having a vendor that could stage stuff for us and act rapidly is a value that you can't put a dollar sign on. But the other end of it that I'll just say is another invaluable thing that you and Jennifer both have absolutely nailed down is responsiveness. Like, I can't say how much I appreciate that enough. The fact that I send you guys a message, and if you haven't replied within an hour, I'm like, are they okay? You know?
Well, we tried. She knows what a priority you are to us as a company and to me personally, and she's taken that on too. And she has some great relationships with people there too. You guys are phenomenally great friends and client and loyal to us. And also, we learn a lot from you technologically. There's things that people like Jason and Keith do out in the field that end up benefiting us. So it's mutual. Believe me, we have nothing but mad love for the Sullivan family and for the Game Creek family. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this and for being such a great partner and friend. And we can't thank you enough, Josh.
No, thank you guys. Happy to do it.
Take care.
Bye.